You're listening to Exposure on Radio X. I'm John Kennedy, and that is the Snuts with Gloria. It's the opening track to the brand new album, Millennials, which has just come out, and I'm very pleased to say that I have Jack from the Snuts sat in front of me here in the studio. Hello, Jack.
How you doing, man?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you? It doesn't seem that long ago that we were sat talking to each other about the last album, about Burn the Empire.
Yeah, man, it was quick. We started writing, I think in a mad frenzy panic. Once you put a record out, the instant reaction is to, if we're doing another record at some point soon, let's have some groundwork laid just in case that happens. So, yeah, it happened quick this time.
So, I mean, every single track seems to be an instant banger to me on this new record. What was the approach this time round?
Yeah, super different from anything we've done before. Both records that came before this, I think we're kind of lament with kind of pressure and worry and stuff like that. And this time round, there was none of that. We kind of set ourselves up in the Highlands in Scotland, like just with the idea of just making music, not here's a new project or here's a new record or like here's a new rebirth of what we're going to be as a band. It was just like, man, this has been quite heavy lately. Can we just make some music as friends, kind of thing? And from that track Gloria was birthed in like the first week of that.
Wow.
And we're like, oh, here we go, better make a record then. This is quite good.
That's great. So, I mean, Gloria was the first single, I think, from the album, which came out last year. And it was the first one that you wrote for this record.
Yeah, man, we were demoing and quite quickly after the last record, we were demoing in my living room. Just kind of set up. We've got a kind of really stripped back setup now in the way that we play live and the way that we record. So we're set up in my living room just like, I quite like to take a song to about 30% and then start hating it and then rely on the rest of the band or whoever I'm with at the time to kind of tell me this is pretty good, let's pursue this. Yeah, so that was the first track, first one we demoed, first one we took into the studio. I think because we were really isolated, we didn't have at this point we decided to leave a label, so there was no noise around this track, no noise around the process, and this stuff was kind of coming quite naturally.
Yeah, it's almost as if after Burn the Empire, you decided to burn your own empire,
yeah, man.
and pretty much start again and take control.
Yeah, for sure. I think, the pressures that came with that second record, the creation of it was great fun, and it was true and honest to like where we were as a band and as humans, but trying to market something like that under this huge corporation and the pressures that came with that and what was being asked of you, as an artist, and to sell something with that message, the kind of, it was becoming very skewed and kind of going against what we wanted to be as a band. So yeah, it was quite easy just to go, let's move on.
Yeah, and it was great that it was quite easy, because that isn't always the case.
Yeah, I don't know how we've done it. We're quite slippery. That was good, man.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's interesting because for me, Burn the Empire was a more experimental record. You worked with some interesting producers who introduced you to different methods and different approaches. And it's almost as if with Millennials, you're combining some of the lessons that you've learned with that experience, in terms of bringing things together and making it quite tight and quite well produced in how it sounds.
Yeah, man.
But also bring it a kind of simpler songwriting approach to it, so that you make sure you put in a chorus instantly and people can connect really quickly with the songs.
Yeah, man, I think that was a lot of the idea behind this record. I think having gone through 2 records previous, working with some like really incredible producers, I think the lessons we'd learned just allowed us to have that confidence to say, I think we can kind of put together what it means to be us in this next kind of stage of our career. And this time, instead of getting like a producer kind of handpicked from like the black book of, a record exec, we decided we're going to do it on our own. We brought in Scott Anderson, who's like our musical director for our live show. We're already really good friends, so there was no ice to break with this record. And Scott's like super, super clever when it comes to musicality and being really direct, and that was the whole approach for this record. It was all about, I think in the past, maybe the previous record, a lot of the intention of the song had maybe been covered up by me. Tried to be a bit too poetic and cover it up and leave a lot of room for interpretation. With this record, the focus was like, let's tell these stories as direct as possible. And if that means doing it in layman's terms, that's what we're going to do. It was kind of uncomfortable to do that with the songwriting. but that kind of being uncomfortable is the thing we kind of thrive on. So it worked out quite well.
Yeah, it's good. It's almost like you've learned it's good to be uncomfortable. It's good to challenge yourself and put yourself in a different place so that you actually stretch yourself. Which is really interesting. And I mean, each song seems to have a little story with it. You know, I mean, Gloria is a really good example. You know, it's pretty cinematic. You almost mention that in the song.
Yeah,
you know, with this lovely tale of chance encounter and romance blossoming.
Yeah, man, it was cool. I think the idea with a lot of these songs was, again, we kind of come back to this a lot, but I think it's just try to learn lessons for our previous records. But yeah, the idea was to kind of some of the maybe themes and the ideas for these songs. We wanted to look back the way instead to try to be so present and having a foot forward. And wanted to say is like, is there any ideas that we've missed, you know, that we thought were maybe too cool to sing about? I think there's a lot of that as a young band. You're like, we must be cool. So a lot of these themes and ideas we probably glossed over, but realised they're actually kind of important staples of who we were as people. So like Gloria was a cool example of that, just taking personal experience and almost just like adding this kind of like semi-fictional idea, to that theme. And it was just kind of allowing to put our stories into maybe Gloria, for example, into another kind of character's body, into their life, and tell our story through it. So it was pretty cool, man.
Yeah, and so anthemic as a tune. You know.
Yeah, we tried to do 10 of those.
Yeah, well,
Gloria was the first one. We're like, right, cool, we know how to do this. Here's a formula, big guitar riff, nice love song. We tried it. I'm like, nope, we've only got one of those.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, each track has its own kind of urgency and kind of instant communication, I think. You know, and we're moving on to Millionaires, which is the next song, and you know, it's a different song, but it continues that upbeat mode, and we can instantly get what you're talking about.
Yeah, man. I think, you know, we're really lucky sonically on the record. We started it in Scotland, like I said earlier. You know, the first time we'd done that in so long, just made music at home. Well, it wasn't at home, but, you know, it was in Scotland, so it was close enough. And then quite quickly, you know, we got really into the writing of this record and the producing of it. The production of the record. We got really involved and really excited about, but had to go on tour. So all these songs we just packaged them up, super small setup, and just took them on tour. So most of the record out with the drums was recorded like in the tour bus or hotel rooms or airport lobbies. Every city we went to, if we had a day off, it'd be like, let's book a studio, just a random studio on Google. So like there's like, I think those guitars and Millionaires were done in Osaka and Japan and in Melbourne and stuff like that. The vocal was done mostly in a hotel room and in like Dundee and stuff like that. So
wow.
Just like all that urgency and that kind of like rambling man lifestyle that we were living, that chaotic energy of like place to place, and it was just helping us finish this album. That's all we wanted to do in our time off, just like keep that pace. That's why the songs are all like kind of like 200 BPM and stuff like that, just because we were living at that tempo, and it was just finding its way into the record.
Wow. And isn't that great that you're able to record bits and pieces as you were going along, and probably another idea would occur to you in the transit from one place to another and think, you know what, we could also add this to Millionaires.
For sure, man. That's how it felt. It's like we knew we wanted to finish the record by this date, and we're like, we have all this time. The writing came really quickly. Me and Scotty were sitting down for long periods of time and really digging into the writing. So we knew we could have that done, and then we could really focus on, you know, the sonics and what everybody else in the band was going to bring to the record. So we gave ourselves, this is the date we're going to finish this, and let's just have some fun making it.
Amazing. So Millionaires is about false happiness, or trying to find out what your priorities should be. Is that what it's about?
Yeah, man. I think it's more like in a sense of like just being totally content in your life and try to find that spot, that sweet spot. I think, you know, certainly in my lifetime growing up, there's been a heavy pressure, I think, on succeeding, and I think now we only really correlate success with wealth, and it becomes more and more this kind of graft culture, and I think people are finding it much more difficult now to feel happy without having that kind of bank. So yeah, it was like a lot of the records like that, just kind of try to find a lot of beauty in the mundane, and just try to find like a moment where you can just sit back and go, I'm actually quite happy in this moment.
Excellent. We're going to hear it now. This is the Snuts with Millionaires on X-Posure Radio X. It is the Snuts with Yo-Yo on X-Posure Radio X. I'm John Kennedy, and that is from the new album Millennials. Jack is here from the Snuts, giving us the lowdown on the whole of the album tonight. So tell us about Yo-Yo. I mean, the upbeat continues.
Yeah, man. That's a cool track as well. I think I started in my living room as well. Me and the bass player, Callum, 29. The drums were like, I love this track because I like to think about how these tracks were born in each little stage, and the bit that no one really cares about, but I love it. And I remember like that we didn't have any drums, but I recorded this like shower drip when we were in Australia, and this drip of the shower was so in time, and it was doing like that kind of syncopated pattern that's going on. So like that song just came from a shower drip, which I thought was great.
And were you in the shower at the time, and the song just sprung into your head?
Well, I think I'd like turn the tap off of this shower, and it was just still dripping. It was getting annoying, but I was like, that's actually in time, so like kind of timed it a little bit and put it in the track, and then had that first verse, but the whole song is like, again, is like dipping back into the past, I think, and try to tell some other people's stories about people who were close to us growing up, and some of the hardships they've had, in terms of like kind of mental health wise and stuff like that, and maybe the stages and the steps that have happened in their life to lead them to a point of kind of breaking. So that's kind of the story I wanted to tell in there, but in this like kind of youthful kind of sonic, I think.
Yeah. And there's some interesting sounds in Yo-Yo. I mean, did you record that shower? But what are the other sounds going on there?
I don't know if the shower ever made it in. I know it was in my demo, but no, it's cool, man. Like, Scotty's like an avid the producer on this record. He's like an avid OP1 player. And it's like his main instrument. He's a drummer, but he just plays his OP1 synth all the time. So there's so much of that coming into the record. And it was like the idea for like, once we had the chorus, like I say, me and Scott sat down and spent a lot of time on the words so that almost so we could feel really comfortable with them and they wouldn't be getting in the way. In a sense, we wouldn't be recording other things and going, is this line right? We wanted to make sure that all these lines were right. So once we had the chorus, like up and down like a yo-yo and stuff like that, super literal, we wanted like the song to feel like it was springing around like a yo-yo. I think we went in as well, and like we were quite into like Adam Sandler movies and stuff like that. There's a lot of them with like these big voices and stuff like that going on, so we've recorded loads of silly voices, just throwing all this, so it's like this kind of head spinning yo-yo sound to the song, man. Just try to kind of create the song, make the song sound how it feels, I think.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. And the next track is NPC. NPC, is that non-player character?
It's a car park, the big car parks.
Oh, yeah. I've been trying to work it out. I'm listening to the song, make a note, go and do some research.
Yeah, no, that's that non-player character.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It seemed to make sense when I kind of hit upon that. I thought, it's so this is kind of about escaping from your responsibilities in a way.
Yeah, man. I think with the whole record, I think we were starting to dip into like quite like a chronological kind of timeline. We were starting, not in any particular order, but we were starting to go like, this could be a song about how we felt when we were, this age, and getting glossed over it. And I think that was about, for me, like being a really like ambitionless, lazy teenager at one point, just wanting to, like, just being like, this is probably as good as life will be, just lying here complaining and moaning about everything and not actually making any effort to try and get my life on track, kind of thing.
And do you think you were content at that point?
I think there was an element of like, this is what it is. I think sometimes when you're a teenager, well, we certainly was, things are just too much effort to make a change. You don't have that in you yet. So it was that kind of thing. We playing video games and stuff like that. We wanted to kind of feel like that kind of like soundtrack, and a teenager, just a lazy teenager playing a video game and almost becoming part of the game, being a non-player character and just walking into walls and not having a direction or a goal. But also that there's a point in your life where like you almost need to do that. I think there's something like you have to kind of live that side of being a teenager to know like, right, I can't do this forever.
Yeah.
But I think it's like the records like that a lot. I think all these different stages of our lives are important, and I think we should make sure that we don't gloss over them.
Yeah. And what do you think changed in your life that you suddenly stopped wanting to be like that?
Yeah, I think like for me, certainly, like I was a joiner before this, and like we still, the whole band, I think, we still treat this like it's the job. You know, I think that you don't often hear saying we're going away on tour or anything like that. We're always like we're away working or So I think like that, being able to get like when I got my job as a joiner, I was like actually really like working. I love creating. Like I love the craft of taking something from nothing. I think all of us done that. So the music's still really exciting because it's a craft. And the shows, it's like crafting something new every time, and the records, it's crafting something new that we've not done before. So yeah, definitely just starting to work and having someone make you get out of your bed or want to get out of your bed to go do it, I think.
Yeah, and I guess, having to get up every day, go and do your work as a joiner, getting used to that routine, and then applying that approach to the thing that you really love doing, which was writing songs and performing them, and means that you get the most out of them, I guess.
I think so, man. I think there's like appreciation for the end product as well, because I think you can get, especially when you make a whole record now, and with this being our third, you kind of now are maybe anticipating how it's going to feel when this one comes out, or how it's going to feel before you've made it and stuff like that. So just being able to put it in like really a real structure, like we're going to make this record and enjoy the craft of making it. And I think it's the first one we've really been able to do that with, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's great. And how do you see NPC now as I'm about to play it? I mean, it positively or negatively, the person going through this experience, or it's a necessary stage that they need?
Man, for me it's a necessary stage that leads you to the next one. I think the record's like that a lot. It's definitely like building blocks in a sense, and it's like a really fun song to play live. I think we always try and make sure that any record we make is going to do that and translate that way, because it's such a big part of how we started and how we're still managing to almost survive in the kind of crazy climate of being an artist. It is ultimately about playing live, so the songs are all crafted with that kind of in mind, and they always were and probably always will be. So that's like, I think that song takes a lot of sonically what's good about our band and puts that all together, that song. So I kind of like it for that reason.
And it's interesting in the sequence of the record because you slow it down just a tiny bit. So it's almost like a live set. If you were to put the album on, it's like a live set. You take us off racing from the start and then just give us a breather.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot of that, and I always find the track listing on a record quite difficult because because we've always been so immersed in live music. We didn't even know what a recording artist was growing up. It was they were just a live act. They were just a band to us. So I think the track list was always difficult to me to try and not see it like a show. And actually, the track list, we played our record in full in London last week or something like that. We've never had a chance to do that before, which was pretty cool. But I had to swap a song out that we opened with that I originally wanted the album to open with, but I had to realise myself, like, a record suits Gloria being first here, but there was another song that suited the live, so the whole record's exactly the same apart from those two songs.
Right, very interesting. And that song is on this record?
Yeah, man. Nova Star, I always thought that was going to be like, I think it's such a great live opener, but it's maybe not the perfect record opener.
Yeah.
Because I think you've always got to make your records for the people who already know what you're doing, but you do want to ultimately really grab someone new as well, because that's the most exciting thing as well, just being able to bring new people to the party kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I love the way you're analysing it all. It's really exciting. Excellent. We're going to hear MPC now. This is the Snuts with MPC on X-Posure, Radio X. You're listening to X-Posure on Radio X. I'm John Kennedy, and with me tonight is Jack from the Snuts. He is bringing us all the knowledge about Millennials, the new album, the third Snuts album. We've just heard Butterside Down. We were talking about pacing, and we're getting to the middle of the record. You do slow it down a little with Butterside Down. And again, it seems to me with each song, there's a different feeling that's being looked at in a way. And Butterside Down is another emotion that you're looking at.
Yeah, for sure. This was happening quite naturally, and I think a lot of what in my writing especially, it's always felt like pretty subconscious at the root of the song, and then I have to develop it from there. And like the album as a whole had to be analysed as an album as a whole. Once we had decided these are the tracks on it, we had to go like, why have we done this in this fashion? Why have these songs came together? What are we saying here? Kind of thing, kind of post almost. So that was pretty cool to realise, oh, cool, these are actually all stages of kind of the highlights and the lowlights and the emotions of kind of getting us to where we are, just as humans and as millennials or whatever. But Butterside, again, it's like I properly loved like the little things about how songs come together, and that was and when we were in the Highlands in Scotland writing this record, well, half of it anyway, we were proper like wake up, the bedroom's like above the studio, so we just like these bunk beds, we just come downstairs, make breakfast, straight into the studio. It's just like beautiful, just like a real nice like synchronized way for us to do it. But so it's like wake up in the morning, really tired, the sessions went late last night, that thing you do, I don't know if you've ever done it, we just drop your phone like on your face, like it's lying in your bed kind of thing, because you're all tired and you've hit yourself in the face with your phone. I'm like, right, cool, get myself up and stuff like that, go downstairs, like get the coffee on, proper old school kind of, everything we were doing was quite old school, and like we were just eating like big pots of soup and like brewing our own coffee and stuff like that. It was like kind of wasn't super technical, but so yeah, burnt the coffee straight after that, so the phone's dropped in the face, burnt my coffee, slice of toast. I'm like, oh, it's just one of these days, like everything's, then dropped the toast, and I'm like, it feels like every time I've ever dropped toast it's always butter side down.
Right.
I'm like, oh, this could be a cool, speaking to Scott about it, about my morning so far, and we're like, this could be a cool idea for a song, like how a lot of mornings in your life can feel like that, and just having to try to keep going and getting up and going, try and go do something, you know, purposeful with your day after like these mornings that you have. So yeah, the song grew into that, and just it, I think just with the musicality around it, it became a positive thing. You know, maybe it was going to start off that it was going to be, oh, this is terrible, but I was like, oh, things actually get much better after even mornings like that. So it was cool. Like I really love this track on the record actually. I think it's got proper like kind of 90s feeling of it, I like, which I quite like. I think it's kind of so much like production and good music that we forgot about from the 90s, so it definitely steals from that era.
Yeah.
I think it's got like kind of weird like Blink 182 intro or something like going on in it, these nice break beats and stuff like that. But just also like finds its way into a kind of like anthemic was what we wanted to do. I wanted to hear people sing those words in the chorus and feel them. And in a big crowd, I think when you get that unison of like positive words and people's voices, it's like just such like a nice thing to try and create. It gives you a lot of kind of hope and positivity.
Yeah, totally. And I've found it really interesting listening to this album for the first time, because each track is like, oh, this, you know, I'm kind of singing along already.
And
Which, you know, both to the chorus and also the different variants on la la la, ba ba ba, da da da, you know, that you introduce into each song. But and then the guitar, there's always a little guitar hook that you can kind of sing as well, or a bass line. So there's a lot to latch onto as you listen.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think there was a lot of focus on, I think every time we step into any new kind of musical environment, that we try and forget about like outside competition. I think guitar music, weirdly as a genre, is like has this competitive element to it that I don't think it needs. So I think we always try to be competitive with ourselves. So like, how can we not be a carbon copy of what we've just done, in a sense? So to do that, it kind of required everybody to be a bit better, in a sense, which is good because it's good for us. The achievement and just being better at your instrument in a band is like, it's a weird achievement, but it's a good one kind of thing. So I think we were trying to make sure we were stepping it up, and again, just not try to be too cool with it, man. I think that was also always in my head, especially with the writing. It's like, I don't mind if people say this is poppy. I mean, I like pop music. I like lots of different types of music, so like I'm fine with that being poppy in places. Again, just try to do some new stuff. Yeah,
it's interesting. It sounds to me like taking the approach that you might hear whatever modern pop is around that doesn't have much flab about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, you approach that for your record and the sound of your band and think, right, well, you know, what don't we need and what do we need and what enhances what we're trying to communicate here?
Yeah, man, for sure. I think, you know, there's a few things as a band, you know, in today's era that I find that we all find in the, like, as a band frustrating, and I think it's like you're very often like pigeonholed into, you know, this is how you look and this is where you're from, so without listening or really trying to understand what you're doing, this is what type of band you are, and here's another 5 or 6 bands and yous are all the same kind of thing. So I think we've always had a kind of bee in our bonnet about that, because our influences and our taste, you know, just as music listeners, is like so different from that. We're not just trying to recreate guitar music, and we're trying to enhance what we are, you know what I mean, in a sense. So I think that the approach to this record was to keep doing that, and like, how do you make a guitar record and not just sound like some guys in a room with amps and these sounds we've heard before, and how can we make this sound a way that people go, oh, this is quite new, it sounds a bit like this, a bit like this, a bit like this. I always feel like we're succeeding when people can't put their finger on what it sounds like. If they have to give 5 or 6 examples, I'm like, cool, that must be something at least approaching new and fresh, because there's obviously no such thing, but I think that's what the goal was.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes it's great to have things that remind us of other records and other bands, you know, and that's a touchstone. It's like, yeah, I love that. I love bands who do that. But it's interesting to be able to develop that, hone that, and give us something that, yes, it references those things, but it's not instantly, this is that.
Yeah, man.
It's something else. So this is the new version of the Snuts that we're getting on this record, and the next song is Nova Star, and this is the most upbeat track on the album, is it?
I think so. It's most chaotic.
Yeah, and the one that you wanted as the album opener, or you're now using it as a set opener.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
it's a cool track as well, man. I think this probably started in like Dundee. You know, I think again when we were off the road, there was just so well, we got addicted to this record and making it. So anytime we were home, it was just like, where can we go to keep working on this? So that just started again as like a 30% idea, and that was probably the most travelled song that had the most amount of things that were like foreign in a sense. You know, I was going to scrap this song, like take it right off the record up until we recorded in Japan, which was one of the last sessions, and I was just like, something's so missing for this track. And I think it was probably just a bit bare. It just needed more of the band, you know. And Joe done this weird guitar riff that just goes right throughout it. It just sounds like a loop, sounds like a kind of synth loop or something like that. It's just like up and down the scale in a really kind of robotic way. But I was just like, oh, cool, I fell in love with the track again. But for me, this track was all like coming of age. That's how it felt. Like it sounded to me like coming of age, so I wanted to write it with that in mind. So it was all about like maybe turning 18 or something like that, or like whatever point in your life where you're like, I feel quite confident about going out and kind of telling people who I am, even if it's on a very local small scale. Like I've got a bit of something about me now, even if it's for a year or so, but maybe like going to getting your first pint or whatever, like these type of moments. That's what it was for me, and that feeling like I can do whatever I want now. Nobody can tell me what to do. I wanted to kind of bottle that feeling. Again, you just go through all these things in life and you forget to like take stock as it's happening, because it's happening, so everything's too quick.
Yeah.
So it's nice, like again with this record and this songs like this, just to try and bottle some of those things up and like serve it again, like, you know, pour it back out and have a listen to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was at coming of age, man, just getting out there. I think there's like a line in there like almost like about ignoring your parents or whatever. I think it's like I can't remember my own lyrics, but it's something about like going to be late for like the 3 o'clock kickoff and stuff like that. It's just like that feeling of like, that's what's important to me right now, getting out and being immersed in something that's exciting me. So that's that track.
Yeah, you've got stuff going on, you've got important places to be.
Man.
You're the Nova Star, and you're going to just shoot off and do it.
Yeah, man. I think just having a bit of confidence as well, like, and try to bottle those short bursts in life where you actually do feel confident, they're like so rare. I think, man, like every day is like, I think we're heading so much further into like this really like introverted generation, which is great for art as well. But if there's nothing around us to inspire the confidence that you need to actually give it that final push, I don't think that's a great thing. So yeah, just wanted to try and capture that little bit of those bursts of confidence that you have. And I think like a Nova Star is like the birth of a star. That's what it means. And like I think like supernova is the death of a star and stuff like that. So obviously that's been used once or twice before. So no, it felt like a cool thing to do, which is nice.
Yeah, it sounds great. You really have explained that and kind of captured it in the song really well. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's like kind of kicking the door down on the way out, or like slamming the door or something like that on your way out. Like I'm an adult.
Excellent. We're going to sample that feeling now as the Snuts go Nova Star on X-Posure Radio X. It is the Snuts on X-Posure Radio X with Dreams. It's the 7th track on the brand new album Millennials. Jack from the band is here talking me through it track by track. And Dreams, well, I mean, the title alone kind of tells us what this is about in a way. Because, you say, never in my wildest dreams did I think this could happen. That you could find this feeling, this connection.
Yeah, man, that's, again, it's just like, almost like a self-portrait, an experience in my life that I think, again, like maybe a few years ago I would think, that's maybe too poppy to go in that theme or whatever, like, that's not cool for a frontman of a band to be singing that. And it's just like, something happened to me, was just like, all those types of kind of pressures, what it meant to be a writer and a frontman, stuff like that just kind of dissolved away, and I just kind of like, I can just sing about whatever I want, and if it comes for that place, it's probably going to be a more interesting song because at least it's properly honest. So yeah, I properly love that. I like all these tracks, which is quite unusual for me, but I really like this one as well. I think we had a lot of fun with the production of it. It's quite interesting. Like, for a listener to a guitar band would probably think that, like, there's not enough guitar in this song, but like everything in that song is guitar. It's just the way that it's been processed and the way we've resampled it. So everything's like proper guitar, and it's exciting, I think, when you're sitting with guitars. Sometimes guitars can be quite uninspiring in a sense because so much great music's been made by them that's quite hard to make them sound any other way than the stuff that's super popular. So yeah, I love that track for that reason, that it is just a band, and when we play it as a band, you can go, oh right, cool, that makes a lot of sense. Like, we are just playing this part and that part, but like Callum 29, bass player, really comes into his own in that track, which I like. Drum beats are like kind of odd, and the grooves are like quite unusual for a band like us. Again, and I love when we dip our toes into those waters. But yeah, credit to Scotty and the prod on that one. He absolutely smashed it out of the park.
And I got to ask, Callum 29, why is he called 29?
He's always been that. Like, my mum even calls him it and stuff like that.
No.
It's just his birthday. His birthday's just on the 29th of September. And
right.
Like, I think like kind of NPC vibes when we all used to play Xbox and stuff when we were young. His username was Callum 29. It's like not even a good story, but
yeah,
it's stuck so hard. It suits him also as well.
Right.
It's weird, like how a number can suit someone, but
yeah, it's
pretty good.
I love the fact that you always refer to him as Callum 29.
Everybody does. And it's cool because, like, I think you probably get to an age where a nickname starts to annoy you, but it doesn't annoy him yet. It's like, that's who I am. So that's a cool name.
Excellent. And when will he be 29?
I don't want to disclose that information.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to tell me. I think we were supposed to go to Vegas for his 29th. That was the plan. But we've been to Vegas and I don't think we want to go back.
Wunderkind? Is that how you're saying the next title?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Not Wunderkind or anything like that.
I don't know, maybe it should be.
Yeah. But this, I mean, we've had a lot of upbeat tracks. This is another ridiculously upbeat track. I mean, I love the fact, because in some ways, people have said to me before that the upbeat songs are sometimes the hardest to write. And there's different writers. Some people find upbeat songs really hard to write. Some people find slow songs really hard to write. And what's your happy place?
I think I'm still kind of working that out. I mean, like, I listen to a lot of down-tempo music. Like, probably 90% of what I listen to is down-tempo. So I think, like, making this stuff is probably a breath of fresh air, and it's easier to find new inspiration making up the upbeat stuff. Certainly on this record. I think it's also just when I think about the way we made this record and how we felt, it just kind of like personifies how we actually felt as a band. We were pretty positive, and like we were upbeat. And everything was kind of like falling into a place where we were like enjoying being musicians and being a band. I think after years of like being in like under that kind of system and a major label and all that entails, like a big weight was lifted off of us just as like everyday humans, and it's like we could be upbeat and we could be kind of happy and make music pressureless, which was really cool. So all that, I attribute all that kind of upbeat positive energy to just where we were in our lives, kind of thing.
Yeah, it just fed back into the music.
Yeah, man.
And it's great that you were in that position from the experience that you had, that you were able to turn that into a positive thing, because it could have gone the other way.
Yeah, man, for sure. I think it's a strange one because there was just no fear like we had no fear about making music anymore. Like one day it was just like, right, cool, nothing's changed musically for us. Like, yeah, we'll probably have to do more of the heavy lifting in a sense, but we like doing that. Like, we don't want people to do the bit that we like. Like, we like doing the hard part of being a band. So that just felt really easy. Like, I think we could take more pride in it. Not that we're not proud of our previous records. Again, they're just building blocks to this one. Like everything is. So yeah, man, just like we could just take a lot of pride in it, and we knew that we don't have to answer to anyone, and there was like nobody saying this type of song should be more like this, and have you tried making one like this? Have you seen this guy? He does songs like this. Maybe you could do that. There was none of that this time. It's just like we can just properly like make some music, and that's kind of how it worked.
Yeah, and in terms of, say we listen to Wonderkind. I mean, that's the band sounds so tight. Did you go into extra practice sessions to get so together and so in the pocket?
Oh man, it's so hard, that song to play. Like we've been in rehearsals playing it live. I feel so bad for the drummer, man, because obviously like when you're recording, you're doing it in such short bursts. So like we'll get like the full verse or whatever, and you can always like, Joko is a great drummer, but you can also always just like, right, cool, we'll move that. I said to him, this is going to be hard, this record, mate. You'll need to be practicing. We got into rehearsals and he's just sweating the whole time, every song, but this one especially, man. But it's cool again. It's like it's been nice for us to challenge ourselves to be able to do this, to make a record that's hard to play and stuff like that. Again, that's like part of what we really like about being in a band, is like having to get better, or like that's it. I think the thought is like plateauing in terms of like our ability or like our songwriting is more scary for us than the thought of people not being interested in it. I think it's like there's this weird thing that we've got, a complex or something, but there is a desire to be better, and I think that's what kind of drives us to do what we're doing.
Yeah. Wonderkind as a title, what's that all about?
That was definitely something that happened on Google for sure. I think we're trying to write this track about like how it feels to be like courting. Is that a Scottish word? Is that a normal word? I don't know if that's a Scottish word. It's a normal
phrase. Yeah,
so it's like that kind of feeling of like courting, in a sense of like you need to like, you've got your eye on someone and you need to now be the guy that like makes a move and try and impress with the little that you have to impress with, in a sense. And I just wanted to kind of write that story in a sense, and also because I always felt like being young, there was a bit that pull you towards that, like pursuing any sort of romance in your life, and there was always a part that pulled you away. And I kind of wanted to capture that in the song, like that kind of those opposing magnets of like, do I want to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or do I not, kind of thing. And just like that kind of weird youthful expression that's quite hard to think about, in a sense, like, because I think everybody's been there, but it's quite hard to like put into words what that feeling is. So that's kind of Wonderkind. I think it means like one of a kind. I hope so.
Yeah, I think we should go with that.
Yeah, man. I think we were singing One of a Kind, and then I don't know where Wonderkind come from, but I think it means that.
Excellent.
I should know.
Yeah. Well, this is a way of finding out.
I find it really hard to name songs. Yeah. I'm not a big namer of songs. I like if you look at like my hard drives and stuff, things are just called like whatever's in the corner of the room. So like demos will just be like, like Portnodo or something like that. Portnodo 1, Portnodo like version B and stuff like that. So I just find naming them so hard.
And who did you lean on then to help you?
Probably like the band and Scotty as well. Like just, it was nice for this record. There was no conflict, I think, which was cool. Like definitely there's been like much more apprehension on other records. Should this song make it? Should that song make it? I think it was like, and even like, should this be a single? Because that's kind of all up to us now, in a sense. There was not a lot of conflict. Like, it was just like, cool, let's just try it. Like, let's just see if this one hits home with people. If it doesn't, like, there's other ones there. And if it doesn't, we also quite enjoyed making it, so it's cool. But yeah, we kind of worked as a team. Like I say, like, we spend all our time on the road, and we've spent all our lives together. Scotty's on the road with us all the time. So there's just like a real, like, kind of like almost like family element to what we were doing. So like there was like difference in opinions, but there was no conflict.
Yeah,
which is quite cool. And then conflict's important for some things, I think. But this record that we could have done, we really needed one for us. Sorry, that had no conflict. No one saying this is mince and this is mince. kind of thing. That's definitely a Scottish phrase, that one. This is mince.
Excellent. We're going to listen to Wonderkind now. This is the Snuts on X-Posure Radio X. It is the Snuts with Deep Diving on X-Posure Radio X. It's the penultimate song on the new album Millennials, which has just come out. And Jack is with me. I'm John Kennedy, and he's been talking us through the whole thing, track by track. Millennials is a title that we haven't discussed that. Was that a big decision?
Yeah, the title was like done in retrospect. We'd wrote all these songs and they felt to us that they were really connected to each other, and again, like they had this kind of chronological element or like these building blocks. So for me, like Millennials became more of an idea rather than just like a group of people, which the word is mostly like obviously attributed to. It became like an idea of like all these important steps in your life, like highlights and lowlights, things you've brushed over. I think the things that have propped you up and kind of pushed you into the place that you are right now. And I think that was the whole thing for us with Millennials. Like it'd be nice to be able to summarise that where we are right now, because I think being young now, I think people are super confused at where they're at and how to find space in their life to go like, I'm quite happy here. There's not a lot of room to just understand where you're at in your life and be content with it. So that's what we kind of wanted to try and paint.
Yeah.
As such.
Yeah, and with Deep Diving, there's certain sounds. What's that? I can't work out whether it's a piano riff or it could be a guitar with a special treatment.
Yeah,
Tell me, please.
It's a blend, man. I think there's definitely about 4 or 5 sounds doing that, but probably the main one that actually helps it poke out and keep it springy will be the guitar. But I think the riff was something that me and Scotty would originally have been messing around like on a MIDI keyboard, just bringing some different sounds out of the computer. I think we had that song and like it's such a funny, I've got like so many versions of that song on my phone, and the first version of it was like quite disco and like I think it actually sounded like kind of like Dua Lipa or something like that, and it was really cool in a sense, but like sonically it was opposite of what the song was saying, and melodically as well the melodies were really different originally, so we had to kind of swap it around a lot to actually capture the tone of the lyrics. And then it was like, right, cool, this could now do with a riff. And we battled with that for quite a while, actually, until this thing kind of cemented it into place.
Yeah.
It was a very different song at one point.
Wow, I'm intrigued to hear those other versions.
Oh, I'll let you hear them.
No.
I like them all. I love the evolution of the song. Like I say, I think it's so exciting, like crafting something from nothing. That's like the main pull, I think, for me. It's like being able to take like a big empty space and then like fill it with like something that people can genuinely like attach important parts of their life to, like these memories, and if it helps them kind of get through something or helps them forget about something, I'm like, I think that's so cool to be able to do that.
Yeah. It's interesting with Deep Diving because it's another emotion that you don't necessarily touch on elsewhere on the record. You know, it's a moment of doubt. I mean, we've had Nova Star where you're feeling kind of excited because you think, yeah, everything's going brilliantly and I'm where I should be. Everything's fantastic. Whereas here with Deep Diving, it's like you're not quite sure why you're doubting yourself.
Yeah, man. I think it's like, again, like I think this track was a real blend of like trying to dig into emotions that I've felt, and dig into emotions that I know people close to me have felt and stuff like that, and look at situations where I can even like visibly see that those emotions are arising, and like, you know, like intrusive thoughts and stuff like that about where you are and how well you're doing, how you're feeling. And I thought it was like quite important to touch on that. I think we just made all this kind of like joyful sound and stuff, but again, like these things just naturally happen, and like a phrase will take us here. So like we'll be messing around with some chords and stuff like that in the morning. Like most of the ideas for these songs were always written in the morning. Weirdly, we found this like kind of this rhythm of like, get up, let's deal with the idea of the song, and like it must be our brains must just be a bit fresher or something in the morning. But yeah, so like messing around with some chords and whatever phrase. I think it was like it would have been the first line of that one, like sitting in the kitchen. It was all about like thinking about people I've seen who are like the life of the party. And then when it hits like 3, 4 in the morning, you find them quite isolated and like their mood have dropped quite tremendously in a sense. So that's kind of what the idea of that song was. I think probably most of us have probably felt like that at one point. So I thought it was important if that's what was coming out while we were trying to sum up all this other stuff, I thought it was important to at least give that its moment as well, because it's probably important to talk about, I think.
Yeah, it's the other side of it, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. The album ends with Circles, and this changes it all in some ways. You know, from across the record, we've been kind of partying like crazy in a way. You know, instant anthems. And this source, you know, it takes off, but it starts slower. It's acoustic guitar. There's some cello in there, is there?
Yeah, man, there's a full quartet. I think we actually recorded, like, which was exciting because, like, we're so desperate to be part of the process all the time that, like, the idea of, like, us bringing strings in and have something written for it and being there when the button's been pressed and no one kind of having an overriding decision on, like, what needs to be in the track was so cool. So the strings were, like, one of those ones where, like, let's do this. Like, let's just bring this in and record it. But yeah, that track I think is, like, a really important one for us. It's nice to kind of put a lid on the record. I think we could have kept writing and maybe run out of a way to kind of finish it. I think sometimes that was quite hard. We were going at such a pace, and I think that's, like, probably a good analogy of life, that sometimes you're going at such a pace that you need to slow down, in a sense. So that song for me was, like, meant to be this whole, I think in the world that we live in, there's, like, an impending doom on us at all points. I think we're constantly reminded of, like, that this could all just disappear or whatever, and we're kind of always having to live in fear of that, and that, like, kind of post-apocalyptic thing was what I wanted to write about, but put the spin on it that, you know, if that was to happen or whatever, like, I'd be really happy with the person that I have, and that's, like, a really cool place to be, I think, in your life, like, I'm so happy with what we've just achieved together. So that was with the idea of song, and, like, I wanted to take it into this, like, this realm that it wasn't going to be like a 90s Britpop song or anything like that. I wanted to make sure that, and Scotty and the band as well, we wanted to make sure that we were going into this, like, our own kind of uncharted waters with the sound of this track. So it's, like, really kind of subby and deep, and strings bring that kind of nostalgia that I think maybe a lot of people maybe crave from guitar music, which I think was important to give that nod as well in there. But yeah, it's a fun song, man. Like, weirdly, like, it's got some, like, darker connotations, but it's also got, like, for me, like, a hell of a lot of positivity, especially as the song grows and you get towards, like, it's, like, nice and long as well, man. It's really hard to write long songs now. When you look at the rest of the record, like, subconsciously as artists, I think we just write short songs for the attention span of the world, really, in a sense. But this one, like, didn't feel much pressure on the length of it. It was like, I know it needs to go here. Like, we've got a pre-chorus coming up, and then we're going for another chorus, and it feels right to go another verse or another pre-chorus, and then kind of want a big middle eight, and then it's like, but I want a sing-along bit as well, and, like, I want a guitar bit as well. And I was like, let's just do this with this song, like. And I think, like, it worked out well. It's got a really nice journey where we're not just throwing everything we have at the start of the song or throwing everything we have at the first chorus. I think, like, you've got to kind of strap in and see where it takes you with this song. But a really, really cool song, man. Like, for me, I think, anyway, I don't know if I should say that about my music, but I think it's a really cool song. In a sense that it does have that nostalgia, and it does have, like, an anthem, and I'd love to see, like, a field of people with their arms around each other, like, embracing what's been said, and that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, and you're going to have a lot of opportunities now over the next few months, touring the world, playing to tons of people, and doing your first headline arena shows at the end of this year, which is very exciting.
Yeah, man, it's exciting. I think, like, you can almost get in a rut. I think probably why we are constantly trying to make records, and I think you kind of get to a place where you're playing the same songs all the time, and it's great because fans love them and they get their favourites, and we're very conscious to make sure they get what they want. But, like, after you've, like, been around the whole world like we were last year, and we've played the songs so much, we're like, it's so exciting having new songs to play, and especially if they're not like this record's not self-indulgent in any sense of that word, like. So it's nice to know that I feel like we can go out there and play it and still give people that experience that they expect from, like, one of our shows, and just hopefully we're just giving them new favourites. That was always kind of in the back of our mind, like, we need to kind of give people favourites here.
Yeah, but so you're going to do this live, Are you going to bring strings on at all?
Oh, for sure, for some big ones. We've done it before as well. Like, we are an incredible band at losing money, and if you want to do that, like, just bring everybody to the party. Like, so we'll be for sure bringing the strings out, and it'll be great, man. Like, it's just, I love that side of it as well. Like, I don't think as hard as a band, we just don't get a lot of chance to collaborate. We just again, like, we're talking about this weird competitive scene that exists in guitar music. So instead of like people coming together and making music and bringing other musicians to the party, everybody just feels like they've got to kind of get out in front, or like try and keep grafting on their own, and we'll do it ourselves and stuff like that. And I think there's so much more room in guitar music for it to be opened up a bit more, and like let more people in and stuff like that. It's a weird culture, so I think that's hopefully something they're going to see a lot of change with in the next few years.
Yeah, and you'll be pioneering that change.
Time, Happy Artist Records.
Excellent. It's really exciting. It's great to see you, Jack. It's great to see you at such a positive time, and you're oozing positivity. It's so exciting.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's a real pleasure. And we're going to listen to Circles now. This is the last tonight from the Snuts. It is Circles on X-Posure, Radio X.
Radio X.